David has become king over the tribe of Yehuda. The rest of the tribes had affiliated with Shaul's son called Ishbosheth. Shaul had been killed together with his other three of his sons in the Mount Gilboa in a war against the Philistines. And there'd been an event, I don't know exactly the right word to use, that had caused the head of Shaul's, side, Ishbosheth's troops, the head of the war minister, and he had decided, his name was Avner. He was the head of Shaul's troops, and he had decided to join David's side. Unfortunately, he was murdered by Yoav, right? Partly because Yoav suspected that he was a spy and he didn't really want to make peace at all, and partly because Avner had killed Yoav's brother Asael in self-defense. Okay, and this event run the risk of ruining the whole peace plan.
Yeah.
The plan that the 12 tribes that all joined David was a great possibility of falling to bits because David had just murdered the head of the army. That's what people thought. So David had to make it very clear they had nothing to do with it. He really had nothing to do with it. That's what the Navi says. David didn't command it. He didn't know about it. He wasn't happy with it. He was very sad. But he had to make sure that was very clear to everybody. And so, as soon as David found out that Avner was the head of the troops, well, let's call it the Northern Kingdom, although it usually means something else. But that's what it's easier, right? The kingdom of Israel, which was governed by Ishbosheth. David had to make it very clear he had nothing to do with this assassination, and he cursed Yoav, and he went to the funeral himself, and he mourned there, and he cried, and he made a eulogy for him, and a special dirge, and he wouldn't even eat the whole day until the end of the day of the burial. And that seemed to have done the trick, and everyone believed that David had nothing to do with it, and then David would now be, the road would be open for David now to have the northern tribes to join his kingdom. Okay? We haven't actually finished the story of the day of the burial. At the moment, David is still crying and fasting and not willing to. Doesn't look like he's coming to terms with the death of Avner. That's what it looks like. Okay, let's start from page 10, chapter 3. It's 2 psukim before the end of the chapter, and it is.
Or the pay.
The pay, right? We're at the pay, which indicates a new piece. Vayomer HaMelech el avodav. The king, that's David, said to his servants, means his ministers, his cabinet ministers, and his generals, his army, and all the important people who were around him. Haloi. Haloi means?
Is it not?
Is it not? Very good. The hey is a question. Haloi is not. So haloi means, is it not? Haloi tedu, which means, should you not know? Or you should know. Kisar v'gadol nafal hayoim beYisrael. That a minister and a great man has fallen this day in Israel.
Does that mean general?
Who?
Doesn't it mean general? Is it general? Or is that the same thing?
It's the same thing. Depends whether you're talking in army terms or you're talking in political terms. Right? When you say that Moshe Rabbeinu appointed Sorei Alofim, the Sorei Asoros, Sorei Meos, they weren't generals. They were teachers of Torah. Right? Chaim Kanievsky was Sar HaTorah. Right? So it wasn't a general. It just means a very important position. Right? In the modern Hebrew, the Sarim of the government are government ministers. Get it? Okay. So, yes, but he was a general. But I don't think that's what's David's. Maybe that's David's concern. But David's making a point. What's David saying? That this man who fell today is a great man. Now it's a bit funny because he's already eulogized. That was the eulogy that David gave was in Pasuk Lamed Gimel Lamed Dalet, and now he says David they all went to eat, and David refused to eat. And now David starts off with a new statement. that you should know there was a great man who fell today. So maybe he's trying to explain why he's not eating. Maybe, right? But maybe not. Let's carry on. Because he continues. V'anochi, and I, hayom, today, rach. Rach means
Empty.
that's rake. Almost. Rach is soft. I am soft. Let him talk. Umashuach melech, and anointed as king. And these men, referring to Bnei Tzeruya, the sons of Tzeruya. Who were the sons of Tzeruya? The two brothers, Yoav and Avishai, who had murdered Avner. Kashim mimeni. They are harder than me. Yishalem Hashem lo se hara'a kirato. God should pay to those who do evil like they're evil. And that's the end of David's talk. So what's he trying to say? It looks like he's trying to give an excuse of why he feels there's nothing he can do about the situation. We would have expected that since David had nothing to do with this murder of Avner, not only did he have nothing to do, he wanted to make sure that everyone should know he had nothing to do with it. And he was really sad, and this had the possibility of ruining the whole peace treaty. David should have, if not killed Avner for doing it, I mean, he should have killed Avner for doing it, if he really considered Avner as killed Yoav. He certainly should have got rid of him from being the head of his army, which is the most powerful position in the country besides the king, right? But he doesn't. And what does he say? God should do evil to those who do evil, should pay them. Is it? Look, yes, really I should do it, but let God pay them. Why? So he explains why. Because they are kashim. Kashim means hard, whereas opposed to I'm soft. And I am Mashuach Melech, I'm anointed as king. So is he trying what he's probably trying to say is that he's inexperienced. He's only just...
That would just push people
just a minute, right? He's inexperienced. Yoav is very powerful. And if he tries, what we mentioned yesterday, if he tries to put Yoav in his place, then it's just though to create a best of civil war. Right? Because Yoav's the head of the troops. The troops have guns, the troops have ammunition, and if you order the death, or even the, what's the word? Yes, I mean just taking him away from his position, then all Yoav's loyal soldiers may show their loyalty to Yoav. May do. There's no way to know, and it's too late once you try it. So if Yoav was a soft person, he could deal with, and he would take that, and he would take orders from David. Okay, David would do that. Or I saw one person says, if Avner would have been around to help David, then Avner had his troops who were loyal to him, and David said, okay, yo, get out of here, we don't need you, get out of here, your troops, I've got other troops, I've got troops from the kingdom that Avner was in charge of. But that's why he's repeated that last puzzle. A great general, a great man has fallen today, and I don't have his support. The only strong political person I have is the person who just committed this murder. And therefore, we're just going to have to leave it into God's hands, although it's not normally the king's job to do that, but if you're inexperienced and you don't have power, then that's what you have to do. So what did Israel say? That's going to push people away? Maybe. But the only other alternative is running the risk of having a civil war, which is something you want to avoid at all costs, I think. Yes?
I understand the whole situation, but who's the narrator speaking to? Is David speaking to someone?
David is speaking to the people. To his cabinet.
To his cabinet, okay.
I think that's what it means. Cabinet.
Yeah.
Avadav doesn't mean the guys who cut sugar in the fields. No. Avadav means those who are his loyal cabinet. Okay? So that's what he's saying. I'm weak. Rach means soft. Now, Mashuach Melech means it means anointed as king, but that's not a reason not to do it. On the contrary, that's a reason to yes do it. It means I'm only recently, I'm not experienced king. I'm an anointed king, just anointed. And these men, who by the way were his nephews, both of them, so the sons of Tzeruya, they're the heads of the army. They're much difficult to deal with, difficult people, and unfortunately they're the guys who have the power here, and therefore we just let God take over the situation. Eventually, as I said, 40, 50 years later, Yoav was brought to judgment and he was killed by David's son.
That's a long time.
David left David's will. in David's last will and testament to his son Shlomo, he said, I want you to take care of Yoav because he killed Avner, and that was a murder that it has to go down in history as being, the people have to know that justice will be done in the end. At the time, I couldn't do it because we had to establish the kingdom, and we couldn't take the risk of the civil war. That's why we didn't do it at the time. Okay? All right. Vayishma ben Shaul, chapter Dalet. The son of Shaul, who was he? Ishboishes. He was now the king. He was still the king in Machanaim, which was in Transjordan, and he had some of the 12 tribes. We don't know at the time how many of them were still loyal to him, because slowly the people went over to David, but it could be, it's hard to work out the timeline. Okay, well, let's assume that he's got the other tribes on his side at the moment, and he heard Kimes Avner, that Avner had died, Bechevron. A Yirpu Yodov, and his hands became weak. Rafa is weak. Means he felt weaker than before. The truth is, he was always weak, Ishboishes, because Avner was very powerful military leader, and he was becoming more and more politically powerful. So in a sense, now that Avner's gone, there's no threat. On the other hand, that's true, but there's no strength either behind. Avner was his strength. Although Avner was a threat to his position, he was also the strength. And that's why he felt that the strength that was behind him was now gone. And all of Israel were shocked or in confusion. Okay, that means the rest of the tribes didn't know what to do now. What do we do? Avner's dead. David claims to have nothing to do with it. So we're all in a state of shock. Okay, now there's a new story. Now this story is it's a short chapter. There is a piece which is very difficult to understand in the middle. We'll see if we can read it the normal way, and you'll see the problems, and I'll try and explain the Malbim's approach, which is very original. It's actually super, inventive, but it does answer the problems, right? You'll see what I mean by inventive. Inventive means you'd never dreamt in a million years that that's the way to read it. Yeah. But on the other hand, the normal way to read this is problematic. Okay? His is not problematic, it's just like, where did you get that from? You know what I mean? But you'll see. Let's see if we can read the story. Okay? Ushne Anashim, there are two men. Anashim doesn't mean men as a position, it means men of positions. Sarei Gedudim. A Gedud is a troop, so they were generals of a troop, which means that each one had under his command 50, 60 soldiers, I have no idea. Okay, something like that. Hayu Bnei Gedudim Hayu Ben Shaul. Ben Shaul means of the son of Shaul, means they were officers of the son of Shaul. They weren't the sons of Shaul. No, they were officers of troops of the son of Shaul. Shemo Echad Ba'ana. The name of one of them was Ba'ana. Shem Hasheni Rechav. And the other one was Rechav. It looks like they were brothers because it says Bnei Rimain, the sons of Rimain. So Ba'ana and Rechav, or Rechav and Ba'ana. I know sometimes they change order, I'm not sure why. Okay? They are the sons of a guy called Rimain. What does Rimain mean? Pomegranate, very good. Why would we call someone like that? Well, that's not a big deal. That's their father's name. Okay? And they are Habe'eroti. They are from a place, their father, Rimain, was from a place called Be'erot, which means a well. A well is a be'er is a well. Be'erot are wells. That's just the name of the place. Mipnei Binyamin. They are from Binyamin. Ki gam Be'erot techashev al Binyamin. Be'erot is also considered part of Binyamin. For some reason or other, the reader would suspect of Be'erot, Binyamin. What Be'erot is not part of Binyamin. Apparently, there was some reason to doubt that, and the author has to tell you that even Be'erot is not nowadays part of Binyamin. It actually still is technically part of Binyamin. Apparently, that I don't know the background behind this comment, but that's what it's telling. Vayivrachu haBe'erotim gitoima. The people of Be'erot fled to Gitoima. Now, where is that? So it could be to Gat, and Gitoima is just the way to say to go. Normally, you'd say Yerushalayim. So you say to Yerushalayim, you say Yerushalayma, the hey at the end. So the hey means to, right? But I don't know where the mem comes from, because you should really say Gitita or something like that to Gat. Okay, but okay, maybe they ran to a place called Gitoim, or they ran to a place called Gat. They ran there. Why did they run there? We don't know. Who ran there? It looks like all the people from Beirut. Vayivruchu ha-Beirotim. The Beirotim fled to this place. Vayiyu sham, and they're there, garim, ad hayom hazeh, till this day. Till this day usually means, till the day that the book was edited.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's all unknown background, which for some reason the reader suspects that the people from Beirut are not really Benjaminites. Well, these people lived in Beirut, and they actually were Benjaminites at one time, and then they fled to this place, and they still live there today. Okay? Why you need to know all that, I don't know. According to the Malbim, it fits a little bit better, but there's no good explanation why you need to know all this information. Okay. That's the background to the next story. Okay. Another piece of background is as follows. Ula Yehona's son, Ben Shaul. Yehona's son, he was one of Shaul's sons who was killed in the battle in Har Gilboa, and he was David's best friend, right? And they had made a pact between the two, and he was killed in battle. But he actually had a son. Ula Yehona's son, Ben Shaul. Ben, he had a son, Nechei Reglayim. Nechei Reglayim means, what do you say? Crippled, right, in his legs.
Broken leg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nechei really means, like, from the word maka, to receive a bang to his legs, and it's come to mean a guy who's crippled is a nechei, right? Really, you should say nechei reglaim or nechei yad or whatever it is, okay? But that's how it's come to mean. So why was he crippled? What happened? All like that? No, it wasn't that. What happened was as follows: Ben Chamei Shanim Haya. He was 5 years old. This grandson of Shaul, Jonathan's son. Before, when it came, Shemuat means the news, from the word Lishmoa. Shaul v'Yonatan miYisrael means the news that Shaul and Jonathan had been killed in Yisrael. That was where the battle took place, in the valley of Yisrael, on the mountains overlooking that valley. So he was 5 years old when he heard this news. Vatisa'ehu omanto, and his nurse picked him up to run away, because they were worried that the Philistines would come and capture them or kill them, especially him being the crown prince or one of the royal family. Okay, so she picked him up and she ran. Tanos, and she fled. And it was b'chafza, in her haste. Chafza is her haste. Ani amarti, how's it go? B'chafzi. Kal ha'adam kaizei, right at the beginning of in Tehillim Hallel, right? B'chafzi means in my haste. So she fled, and in her haste, lanus, to flee, vayipol, and he fell. So this kid, 5-year-old, fell from the hands of his nurse, who picked him up running, and as she fell, and as she ran, he fell, vayipa seyach, and he became lame, or crippled, and he couldn't walk properly. Okay? Ushma, and his name is Mephibosheth. So don't get him mixed up, it's very confusing. Right? His uncle, who was the king at the time, was called Ishbosheth. Ishbosheth is Shaul's son, and this is Shaul's grandson, who was Jonathan's, called Mephibosheth, from the mouth of shame. That's literally what it means. That's his name, Mephibosheth. Now, why you need to know that event, you still don't know. Right? So at the moment, we've got two background stories. One is there's two guys who are officers in Ishbosheth's army, or they're officers in Shaul's army, and the whole town of people from Beirut had fled to Gat, and they lived there. That's one thing you know. The other thing we know is that Shaul had a grandson who was still alive, but he was crippled. And the sons of Bnei Rimoin, who was from Beirut, who were they? Reichav Ubana. What did they do? Be'elchu means they went. Where did they go? Vayavayu, and they came. K'chaim hayoim, in the heat of the day. It means midday. Chom is when it's hot. When the day was hot. 12 o'clock, midday they came. El Beit Ishbosheth, they came to the house of Ishbosheth. V'hu shochev, and he is lying. Es mishkav hatzarayim, his afternoon shluf. Right? You know what it means? He's gone to sleep. It's siesta, as they call it. Okay? So when there was no air conditioning, it was like that. I remember when I came to Israel, everyone went to sleep at lunchtime. There was no air conditioning. The place was very, very hot. And everyone went to sleep. Shops were always closed at lunchtime.
People still do it.
Well, some people do, but it was like, but it was much, much more common 40 years ago when people didn't have air conditioning. Right? Shops were closed at lunchtime. And they opened again at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when things were not so hot.
Wow.
I was in Paris a couple days ago. It was like that.
Yeah.
Everywhere closed at 3 o'clock.
Siesta.
Okay, so he at lunchtime he's having his sleep. Apparently they knew that Ishbosheth would be having his sleep at lunchtime, and that's why they came at this time of the day. V'hinei. Now I'm going to read this the simple way to read it. Put the Malbim aside. We'll talk about that later on. But let's continue the story. Hinei. Behold, Bo'u, they came. This same Rechab Ubana. Bo'u, they came. Ad Toich Habayis. Inside the house. Toich means they got right into the house. Even this guy's the king. Ishbosheth is the king of 11 tribes. Okay? Somehow or other they got into the house. Of course they were officers. So it's not a big deal for an officer to get into the house. Yeah, you show your pass and you're an officer. No one suspects you of anything. Like chechitim. Buying wheat. And that's weird. That means although they were officers, it looks like they dressed up as wheat buyers or wheat sellers, right? Lokech, what it means to buy, you don't go to the king to buy wheat, unless he trades in wheat, but could do, right? It probably means that they bought wheat to sell to the king. I mean, the king has a palace which has a kitchen and they need food, so they came in dressed as the tradesmen. Vayakuhu el hachomesh, and they struck him on the 5th rib. So this is now the third person in the Tanach who's being struck on the 5th rib. The first one was Avner killed Asael, the second one was Yoav killed Avner, and now Rechav and Bana killed Ishbosheth. So apparently that's the way you kill people. You want to do it, that's the way people do it.
Why is it not a thing these days?
I don't know.
Drones.
People have guns.
Everybody knows staying for like the head or like the heart. Like,
Okay, so maybe they learn this, they'll get it right and they'll win wars better. I don't know. Lo Yodea. Maybe things have changed, maybe people those days didn't know. Anyway, if this was the standard thing, it seems they want to get someone, that's what you got him. Okay? Maybe this helps you do it just silently after night. Okay? Alright. And then what do they do? So the whole story is weird, that they came in dressed up as wheat sellers, or as wheat buyers, I'm not sure. It says wheat sellers. It says as buyers of wheat, but why you come to the king to buy wheat is really weird. So let's say it doesn't mean that. It means they came in to sell wheat, let's say. Otherwise, the other question is like, why do they have to dress up at all? They're officers, just come in.
Yeah,
right?
why?
And you're not going to get into the king's bedroom, right, to kill him just because you dressed him as wheat. All right? No, it's really strange. I mean, a bit strange. You're more likely to get in there as officers. I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on the story. Rechav Bana, Achim and Rechav Bana, it's rather Nimla too, they fled. So they've killed Ishbosheth and they fled. Good. All right. I mean, it's not good, but that's the story. Yeah? All right. Vayavohu habayis. And they came into the house. This is the problematic problem. All those are just slight nuanced problems. This is a real problem. They came into the house. V'hu shochev al mitato, and he's lying on his bed. B'chadar mishkavo, in his bedroom. Vayakuhu, and they struck him. Vayamisuhu, and they killed him. Vayasiru, just a minute. Vayasiru es roshai, and they removed his head. Vayikchu es roshai, and they took his head. Vayelchu, and they went. Derech ha'arava, the way of the Jordan Rift Valley, because they're going from Machanayim, they want to go to David. Kol halayla, all night. And that's the end of the problematic part of the story. So Rechav and Bana murdered Ishbosheth. That's very clear. The question is, why does this describe the dirty deed twice? Right? That was what bothered you? It said in Pasuk Vav, they came into the house as dressed up as wheat merchants, and then they hit him in the 5th rib. And then they fled. And they came into the house, it says in Pasuk Zayin. And he was lying on his bed, in his bedroom, and they struck him and they killed him and they removed his head. You hear? It's a major problem.
Yeah.
Like, why is it described twice?
Two completely different ways.
Two different, it's like weird.
Maybe one of them was the cripple, and one of them was.
There's only one person. No, it doesn't say that.
Similar names.
No, the guy appears later on into that. No, he's still alive. What?
I'm just adding more detail to the.
Yeah, maybe it's like more detail, but it's weird. But you should add more detail before it says they ran away.
You have two different point of views.
Two versions of the story.
No, two different point of views. You know,
I mean,
in a movie, like you show like the murder, then you show from a different angle. You show it again. You know, like.
This is a Navi speaking. So I think the standard approach to answer this problem, which is a bit imaginative, is that they, on their way out, they said, "Did we really get him? They started having second thoughts. Maybe he wasn't really dead. You know, you hit a guy in the fifth rib and you think you've got him exactly where you need to, and he's like, and then half an hour later, the guy gets up. Happens in films the whole time, right? So how do you make sure? So what it is, they came back into the house, and he was lying there. They said, "Oh, we're going to do something serious. How do you make sure?" So they chopped off his head. Once you chop off somebody's head, then he's really dead.
Maybe they also just want to bring proof to David too.
That could also be. Yeah, all right.
They
Let's say
maybe
they
just-
forgot. I don't know why.
They want to make sure, you know,
Want to make sure the what?
that he was dead and that.
No, that's what I said. You're saying in addition to want to make sure that he's dead, they wanted to make sure they had proof of it. It could both. Okay.
What was the
I don't
motive?
know why they changed the tranche.
Both.
That's another question.
Well, it's,
Right, we'll get there, right? But I have to read the story first. What happened to motives?
you
Right?
could, you're on a trip and you're like, do I have everything? You go outside, you're like, oh, my keys. Maybe they have left that, like left, and like, oh.
So
Got the head.
you have to say why they changed their mind.
Did you grab the head?
No, it's like, no. The question is what made them change their mind. If you do this, you plan it from the beginning. You don't say, "Oh, we forgot about that." Oh, that's a good idea, right? It certainly doesn't say that they forgot to do something. That's silly, right? But it could be they changed their mind. But then you have to see why they changed their mind. Why didn't they plan it properly from the first place, right? Whether you say like me or like you, that they thought maybe we didn't get him, so why did you do it the first time? And we need the proof. So the first time take the proof. It's a really strange story. So this is, I'll tell you the Malbim's take, right?
Okay.
Malbim has a very interesting take. I mean, I would say, I don't know if the Malbim goes with it, there's another nuance, grammatical nuance. The Pasuk Vav starts with the word bo instead of Vayavo. Now listen carefully because of this is many, many, many times, and you'll see it's very, very important nuance difference in Hebrew. There's two ways you can say, and they came. You can say Vayavo. That's how Pasuk Zayin starts. Vayavo, and they came. You can also say Uba'u. Uba'u chulam b'ritziyachem.
That's really doing stuff.
No, what's your song? Uva'u ha'ovdim, right, Uba'u. Now that means they will come. Ba'u is they came. Uva'u, and they will come. Right?
So
Because the Vav changes it. But this says, what? It can be above a Hebrew, right? Here it isn't. Here it's meant to be just a straight one. Ba'u, Ba'u, they came. Uba'u, and they came. Vayava'u means, and they came. What's the difference between the two? There's two completely different ways in Hebrew to say, and they came. Vayava'u, Uba'u. Vayavo is above a
I
hippo.
have a good answer.
It's got a dot.
One of them has a yod in it, one of them doesn't, right?
No, I want it's more than that.
And
What-
the yod, the one that has a yod means that they were walking with Hashem.
Yeah. If you do that, that's a beautiful explanation. You're going to have hundreds and hundreds of examples. You're going to have to explain me that.
Why people are not walking with Hashem?
No, because the whole time is the difference
was-
between
it's their
Vayavo, Bo. Every time you say, "Oh, this was with Hashem," that was Hashem.
The Vav like reverses the meaning of it.
Correct. The Vav reverses the meaning, but it changes from Yavo'u, they will come, Vayavo'u, and they came. But there's two ways to say and they came. One is you write the future, Yavo'u, and you
Yes.
change it to the past by putting a Vav, Vayavo'u, and they came.
Yes.
Or, just a minute, you can just say Ba'u, which means they came, and just a Vav, and they came. You hear? But both mean and they came. So what's the difference, Dylan?
Isn't when the Vav is that underline, it means it's next in the sequence of events.
Exactly, beautiful. When you use the Vav HaHipuch, right, and it's really the future, which is changed into the past, it's the next event. Right? When you just write the past, it's not necessarily the next event. It could have happened beforehand. That's why it's written in the past. Because even in the story, it had already happened. It wasn't the next event. If it's the next event, what you do is you write the future because it's the next thing that's going to happen in the future, in the story. But the reason why you write it in the past, because by the time you're reading the story, it's already happened. It's all happened already. In the story, it hadn't happened yet. In the story, it was about to happen. So in the story, it's the next event. It's the future. But you write it in the past to make that point. And here you see the difference. Pasuk Zayin says Vayavo because it was the next event. Pasuk Vav doesn't say Vayavo. It says V'hine Bo, which means in English they had come. Not now they came, they had come. And it's actually describing another story that happened in the past. It's not describing the next part of the story. And this is a completely different story, Pasuk Vav. It's not describing this story of killing Ishbosheth. It's another story that Rechav and Baana had done in the past. Now, why you need to know that, it's another question. But once you read the story, you read the Hebrew properly, you can see that the whole question doesn't start off. It's not describing the same story twice in different terms. It's describing different stories. It's saying they had come. Maybe it's explaining where did Rechav and Baana get their expertise from. You don't murder the king the first time. You practice on other people, right? They were experienced assassins because some other time in their lives they had murdered somebody else. And that's just been added in parentheses to add in their background experience. V'hine, behold, they had come, in a different story. And then that's the story when they got dressed up as wheat merchants. This time they didn't need to because they were soldiers. They didn't need to dress up to come into the palace as wheat merchants, buying wheat from the king. Understand? That's the problem. So, me selling wheat to the king, come in as soldiers. The answer is it's different, describing a different story. V'hine, it's problematic because you don't see that when you read it, but that's because you don't read Hebrew properly. If you read Hebrew and you said they had come, they had come? But that thing was why they had come. The answer is it's describing a different story. V'hine bo'u ad toich habayis, to a different house, not to Ishbosheth's house. Like chichitim bayakuhu, and they struck him. Who's him? Some other guy. Elachomesh v'reichan. Then they fled, and that was their past assassin experience. Now getting back to the story of killing Ishbosheth, is Pasuk Zayin. They came into Ishbosheth's house, and then they killed him by chopping his head off, not by hitting him in the fifth rib at all. Fifth rib was a different story from previous time. The Malbim adds on that was the reason why they fled from Be'erot to Gat. This story described at the beginning that the guys from Be'erot fled from Be'erot to Gat was as a result of the previous murder that they'd done, and they fled, and then they couldn't go back to Be'erot because they were the ones who were known to have murdered whoever this.
They say a whole city fled to Be'erot.
That's the way I read the story, and that would have been a simple way. It doesn't say. It says Vayivruchu ha Be'erotim, the Be'erotites. Now, does that mean all the Be'erotites, or does it just mean these two guys? Or maybe anyone who was associated with this murder? Maybe they've been the assassins. Who sent them? Who was accused of it? I don't know. It's still a lot of imagination used over here. I think Malbim is very, very clever to have noticed. I don't know if the Malbim goes in there, but I think it's definitely well nuanced in the text that it's not describing the same story. Okay? But the main point of the story is not that point. The main point of the story is Rechav and Baana murdered Ishbosheth. Now you want to know what was their that was their motive.
Maybe
I think they wanted.
Moses ran them out of their city. Maybe that's why they brought that part up.
Could be. There's another. It looks like they want to side with David. They want to show their loyalty to David because David's now that Avner has been murdered, right? And David is there's been talk about joining sides together, and if they get rid of Ishbosheth, then those talks will become real, and they can show we're on your side, David, and we're loyal to you. And they think David's going to give them a big slap on the back and be very appreciative of their action.
King.
Well, he's the enemy, right?
Yeah, no, David. That's not David. David's not the enemy.
You know that, right? And I know
David's
that,
a good guy.
right? But they don't know that.
We have the explanation for why we have the story of Jonathan's.
Very good, very good. So I think the answer to that is why do we need to know this piece of information about Jonathan's crippled son? Is because that since the only other heir to the throne is this crippled grandson, and he's not really a candidate for the throne, they don't have to worry about getting. You've got to get rid of everybody before you can give over the kingdom to David. But there's nobody else who's a threat. Shaul's dead. All his sons are dead. The only live descendant is this crippled thing, and he's not in the way. He's not a problem, right? Where he is, there's another question. He'll come up later on, many chapters later. I think in Shmuel Beis. Later on, he comes up, and we find out where he is. But he's not part of the story. He's just showing there's nobody else who's a threat to David besides. So that's what they did. So now they're coming with his head, and they bring his head from where they chopped it off in Machanaim to David, who's in Hebron. And it's a long walk from Machanaim to Hebron. It's probably about...
So they walked.
Whatever. But Yelchus, they went. Right? How did they go? Maybe they took a horse. I don't know. Whatever. Right? It's a long way to go. It's probably about 150 kilometers.
Like 30 hours at least.
30 hours
Walking, yeah.
from Machanaim to Yerushalayim.
Nachnaim, you said is like the Golan area.
No, the Machanaim is on the way to Amman, in that direction, in Jordan.
Oh, so it's
Whatever. Okay, it says they walked all night. Oh, they went all night. Okay, exactly how they know that. Maybe they were on scooters. I don't know.
horses exist.
Could be, yeah, for sure. And camels and
It's good.
right. Vayelchu derech ha'arava. They went through the Arava, which is the way you go down the mountains of Jordan, across the Dead Sea, and up the mountains of Yehuda, and you come to Hebron. Vayaviu means they brought es Rosh, the head of Ishbosheth. That's what they're carrying in their bag, whatever. El David to Hebron. Vayoimru, and they said El HaMelech to the king, Hine Rosh Ishbosheth ben Shaul. Here is the head of Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul. Now, how does he know? Because David knows him well, right? Because A, he's the king, B, he's his brother-in-law, right? Don't forget, David is married to Ishbosheth's sister. Ishbosheth's sister is called Michal, and she's the daughter of Shaul, and David knows Ishbosheth very well. Okay? There were times where they were probably good friends, right? He's also a son of David's best friend, Yonasan, and a brother, so they're his close family, right? But he's the enemy. So David recognized him clearly, and he says, what did he say? Here, behold, Rosh, the head of Ishbosheth ben Shaul, Oyivcha. Oyivcha means your enemy, your oyev. Asher bikesh es nafshecha, who sought your life. Now that's probably referring to Shaul, not Ishbosheth. This is Ishbosheth, the son of Shaul, your enemy who sought your life. Right? We don't know that Ishbosheth had it in for David. Vayitein Hashem la'adoni, God has given to my master, HaMelech the king, nekamos, revenge. See, we've avenged your Shaul's attempt to kill you. Hayom hazeh, this day, mi Shaul, from Shaul, umizara, and from his descendants. God has given us the great mitzvah to avenge your suffering at the hands
They really
of
thought they
Shaul.
were doing the right thing.
They really thought that David would be really happy with what they did. Vaya and David es Rechav es Ba'ana. See here the orders changed. I don't know why. Before it was Ba'ana and Rechav, and that's the other way around.
Or what's Zuriah? What was the last word?
Mizaro and his descendants.
Oh, like seed.
Seed, right. Vaya and David answered, es Rechav es Ba'ana, Achiv, Rechav and Ba'ana, his brother, B'nai Rimon, the sons of Rimon, ha Be'eroti, from Be'erot. Vayom Elahem, and this is what he said, Chai Hashem, as God lives. Which God? Asher pada es nafshi, who redeemed my life, mikol tzara, from all difficult situations. I was in many, many different stations, and God helped me. I swear by that God as follows. Ki, hamagid li leimo. Hamagid means the one who told the story. Right? Magid is what we do on Seder night. We tell the story of Seder. Hagid baboker chazdeka. Right? Right? Lahagid means to tell a story. The one who told the story, Li, to me, Lamar, saying as follows, Hine me Shaul, behold, Shaul has died. Now, those who remember in chapter 1 of Shmuel Beis, there was a guy who was the son of an Amalekite convert who just happened to be on Mount Gilboa after Shaul had attempted to commit suicide. Shaul had attempted to commit suicide in the battle against the Philistines because he was majorly concerned about being captured by the Philistines and being tortured and humiliated and being put on stage and making a big chilul Hashem and suffering tremendous pain and humiliation. So, without going into the rights and wrongs of suicide, right? But that's what he did, okay? But his attempt had been unsuccessful, and he hadn't managed to kill himself, and he was in excruciating pain, and some guy just happened to be walking past. He says, hey, come over here, what's your name? Whatever, they got into conversation, and he said, well, please finish me off, because otherwise the Philistines are going to get me, and I'm dying in any case. It's just a matter of time before I die. And also Shaul happened to know that Shmuel HaNavi had told him he was going to die that day, and the guy did.
Anyway, if he was dying anyway, why did he need someone to...
Because he was in terrible pain, and he didn't want the Philistines to catch him now, and there would be even more suffering. Okay.
So that's really what was confirmed. That's what happened, and the guy didn't make it up.
Well, we don't know. We weren't there. We just have to believe what he said. We're not, we're not news reporters, so we weren't there. That's what he claimed, right? And then the guy came along to David, and the guy did it. The guy finished him off, and he comes to David with Shaul's bracelet and his crown, and he said, here, this is the proof that I was there and I got them from Shaul. David said, really? He says, kill him, and they killed him. Right? How dare you? How could you do that to touch and harm the anointed one of God? That's what you do when you mess with a king. Okay, that's what David did. Now David's saying that
This is to the guy that.
to kill Shaul off. And now he's saying, the guy who told me, that's David. David's not making a kavachayma. The guy who told me that he killed David, even though Shaul was in terrible pain, and he was dying in any case, and he told you to kill him. Even him I killed. You think I'm not going to kill?
He was going to die on that day anyway.
Right? You think I'm not going to kill you guys? Right? You don't understand my relationship with Shaul. You think because he's chasing me, I hate him, and he's my enemy, and I'm happy that he's dead. No, you're misunderstanding the whole story. It's very unfortunate that Shaul doesn't treat me nicely, right? But he's my king, he's a tzaddik, he's my father-in-law, and touching the king is unthinkable. Several times David had the opportunity to kill Shaul. When they were in the cave and Shaul was relieving himself, and the second time when he was asleep and he surrounded him, right? David had many opportunities to kill Shaul, and he every time he wouldn't do it because you don't mess with a king. A king who's the king, and he's anointed one of Hashem through his prophet, and therefore David took this really serious. And again, you've always got to understand there's a very important political point over here. David has to make sure that no one tries to do the same thing to him. Right, because he's a king.
You're also not listening to me.
Correct. So that's a good question. I don't know what David would have done to this guy if he hadn't listened to Shaul. Maybe he would also killed him.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know. That's a good point. We discussed at the time. Exactly, he was doomed from the start. And we said who he was, and he deserved to be doomed from the start. That's another story. But that was the situation. David said, you think you're going to reward you for killing Ishbosheth? That guy, even the guy who killed Shaul, I killed him. So for sure I'm going to kill you. So David says, Ki hamagidli, the guy who told me, Lema is saying, Hine mei Shaul, behold, Shaul died. V'hu haya ki mevaser be'einav. He in his own eyes was like he was telling me good news. Levaser means to tell good news. Lahagid just means to tell a story. Right?
Yeah.
It's good or bad. A mevaser is a guy who's telling good news. You've heard of Mevaser et Sion? Right. You heard of Mevaser et Sion? It's the name of a place? Mevaseret, what does it mean? It means it's a phrase from the Navi where it's talking about people telling us that Mashiach is on his way. So those two towns, Mevaseret Yerushalayim, Mevaseret Zion, are telling you that you're almost at Yerushalayim. That's the point. They're giving you the good news that you've almost finished your journey to get to Yerushalayim. So Levaser is good news. So that guy thought he was giving me good news. V'ochazabo, I got hold of him. V'ahargehu, and I killed him. Ahargehu, and I killed him. But Ziklag was the name of the town that David was in at the time, which had been given to him by the king of the Pelishtim. Asher lesito lo besora. Literally means that I gave him the news. I killed him for. It doesn't mean that he gave me the news. It means that which I gave to him because of his report. I think. Expression. I killed the guy who brought the news. I heard an explanation to what these words mean. David is explaining why I killed him. Look, the king was in terrible pain, and the king ordered him to kill him. So really, why did David kill him? What was he supposed to do? So David here is sort of giving away why he killed him, because the guy thought it was good news. If the guy had come to me crying his eyes out with his clothes torn and I said, I couldn't do this, the king told me to do it, I had to do it, what can I do? Right? The guy's coming along, yeah, the king told me to kill him and I killed him. Aren't you happy, David? No, I'm not happy. That's why David killed him, because he did it with glee instead of being upset that he had to kill the king. Clearly he was happy to kill him. He would have done it even if the king hadn't told him to do it. That's what it says. Ashel asiti lo besora, because he'd made it into news as opposed to just telling me it had been good news. And he thought it was good news, and that's why I killed him, because he made it into good news. Afki is like, say, kol shekain. All the more so. Anoshim Rishoyim, these evil men, talking about these two guys, Hargu es ish tzaddik, they murdered a righteous man. I mean, Shaul was also righteous, but Shaul knew that he was dying for his sins. Shmuel told him that he's dying because of he killed the town of the Kohanim, and this would be, and because he didn't listen to Shmuel when he told him to wait in the battles. Lots of things that Shaul did wrong. Well, one major thing, and that's why he was dying in battle. But this guy, there's nothing wrong with his life. He was a tzaddik. So that's all the more so I'm going to kill you for killing the tzaddik. Bevesa in his house, al mishkova on his bed in cold-blooded murder. That tzaddik who didn't do anything wrong, and he didn't tell you to kill him. He wasn't in pain, and it's a million reasons why this is more serious than what the other guy did. Ve'ata, and they also thought it was good news, right? They were coming also proud of what they'd done. Hello, avakeshes damo miyadchem. Ve'ata means and now. Hello, surely or will I not? Avakesh, I will seek out as damo his blood miyadchem from your hands. Means I'm going to take revenge for his death. Ubiarti eschem min haaretz. I will eradicate you from the world. So David is telling him, this is what I've just decided, I'm going to kill you. So what did David do? Pasuk Yud Beis. Vayitzav David es hana'arim. David commanded his young men, Vayahargum, and they killed them. Okay, so now Rechab and Baanah are dead by command of the king, executed. Vayikatzitzu, now this becomes nice and exciting. Vayikatzitzu es yidehem, and they chopped off their hands.
Hands?
Mm-hmm. The es ragleihem, and their feet.
They tortured them.
No, they're dead already.
Yeah, killed. Why?
They killed them already. Why do that? So probably this is part of the making the point. These guys had used their hands to kill Ishbosheth, and they'd used their feet to bring the head to Hebron. So those parts of the bodies deserved an extra message to give. I guess that's the idea. I don't know. Vayargum, vayikatzu, they chopped off their hands, v'esraglem, and their feet, vayislu, and they hanged them al habrecha, next to the pool. Apparently, this is where you made statements. The pool was where people hanged out. I mean,
It's so
they
gory.
hanged, right? Yeah, hung out, right? Yeah, right. That means that's where people went in the afternoon to cool off. And
David would do. That's what
that's
David
what
would
make an example. This guy was killed for.
force everybody else to look at like limbs hanging. That's really
Yeah.
like eerie.
It's gruesome.
It's like a very eerie.
Those are
thing.
the
Yeah, but actually get a message, right?
It's a very
You wanna get a
It
message?
was a pretty gruesome time.
This you're going to get a message.
pretty eerie thing to do as
I mean,
like,
eerie.
I don't know, it's like very gruesome. Like it's like a
Pirate.
kinda like a,
He's the
it's
king,
a
this-
tyrant kind of.
You want to get a message. Don't start with the king. It's exactly what David wanted to
But
do.
he's defiling a dead body.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was
For a very good reason.
Yeah, but it's-
One second. Did he file a live body is okay? He just killed
No,
these guys.
no.
So if David, you have a problem with David killing them.
It's like
Well, one second. You have no problem with David killing them.
It's like Avera be'Avera.
One second. The killing them is okay
Yes.
If he's-
they did something wrong.
because he's the king, and you have to make it.
I would say
Understand?
that
How can
killing
you?
him without defiling a dead body is better than killing them and then defiling their
I
body.
agree with that, but how do you justify him killing them in the first place?
Well,
I don't.
so
You don't?
Necessarily.
Okay, so ask that. Ask that first. First, ask how could David kill innocent people? The answer is they're not
I was
innocent.
alive at that time.
No, but the answer is Pasha. These guys are murderers,
Yeah.
right? So
They
why do we
weren't
kill? Why do we kill murderers? Why do we let God talk?
They weren't innocent. I'm not talking
Why
about-
doesn't?
I'm not talking about
Why
the
do we
themselves.
justify killing murderers? Because they have to make a thing. Now but you have to give it. I understand your problem. Understand? That small consideration of the defilement of the body, but that's doing for the same purpose. You have to give the people a message. And if David feels the way to give this message is to hang these bodies, that's what we'll do. And if it needs to cut their hands off, that will do as well. Just like you're allowed to do an autopsy to save somebody's life, right? You don't usually do an autopsy,
Yeah,
right?
you shouldn't go
But
live
let
stream
me finish
autopsy
the
and force people
sentence,
to look at it.
right? Let me. Then you bothered.
This is
We
like
answered
doing
you already.
like an autopsy on like the front page of TikTok.
Yeah.
One
exactly.
second. You bothered by his
What
problem,
about the
this is
pool?
gruesome, or you bothered by the fact it's defilement of the body.
Defilement of the body.
So that's nothing to do with being on the front page.
Yeah.
So don't bring that in, right? So you
That's what I'm
say,
talking
we know by Jewish law, you're not allowed to defile a body. But by Jewish law, you're not allowed to kill live people either. And that doesn't bother you.
What's the punishment for murder? Right? According to
One second. Is it
I don't know.
straightforward to you that murder is a bigger variant than defiling a body?
Yes.
Right. And yet, so who did the murder here?
Of these
You're saying they should just be murdered, right?
Which murder
These
is
guys. What's it? I thought you were talking about David murdering them. How can you explain that David kills them? How can David justify killing them?
I mean, I don't know what the punishment is for.
I see. You're looking at this from a halachic perspective.
Yes.
As if David's killing them because he's the head of the Sanhedrin.
Yes.
No. David's killing them because he's the king. Kings aren't governed by the rules, the more limited rules of halacha. You're right. I hear where you're coming from. There's a halacha when Beis Din kills someone, they have to do it with a lot of respect. Right? For example, even if they throw him off a building because he's chayav skila, right? They do it from the second floor, they don't do it from the third floor. Because if you do it from the third floor, then his limbs will become dismembered and that will be disgusting. Right? So that's what's bothering you. We always, when we kill someone, we do it in the most humane way possible. We give him to drink forward first so he doesn't actually feel it. That's when we talk about the Sanhedrin. And they're governed by usually governed by very limited rules. Right? The king is a whole different ballgame. The king is the government who have to make sure that law and order is seen. And if that means making an example of someone, they'll do that. The king will do that. The king has the right to do that. So, these guys were killed even though nobody warned them. I ask you that better question. Basically, are only allowed to kill somebody if it was warned before. Right? It means two witnesses. And also, how could you kill them? Who said they did it? Maybe they were lying. Right? A guy who admits something in court doesn't get killed for it. So I'm saying, if you're coming from a halachic perspective, you can ask lots of questions how David had no right to kill him at all. The answer is, the king isn't limited by the halachic rules. That doesn't mean the king can do what he wants. But it means when the king sees that the something has to be done in order to put fear in people's hearts, then that's what he'll do, and he has the right to do that. He can kill based on the testimony of one witness, on the testimony of a woman, on an admission, and there's lots of rules that are broken. So the fact that he now feels the best way to get this message is to hang these guys' bodies up, which he wouldn't normally do, and to chop their hands and legs off, it's gruesome, but that way people won't be scared. So you think it's gone overboard. Okay, so when you'll be king, you won't do it. Right? And then you have to worry that someone may do it to you. Because they want.
They say I wouldn't do it if I became king. I'm just.
Why not? That's what you're saying. David shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, maybe if I became king, I'd probably know better than I know now, and then maybe I would.
Yeah, exactly. That's what all the politicians say, right? What do you say? One Israeli politician says, "I promise to do something," and he says, "What we see from here, how do we say it? We see from here different. Because he made this promise when he was in the opposition." Right? But then when they come to power, everything all of a sudden changes because we see different things from there.
Always.
Yes, always things. Okay, so David feels that that's the right thing to do, and then what do they do? How long they left him there for? No, it doesn't say. Right. So that's what they did. Why was it by the pool? Because that's where you get the message. That's like the billboards was by the pool where everyone came.
That's
Berecha is the pool.
What's the last line?
Okay, but that's Rosh Ishbosh, that's the head of Ishbosh, because his body didn't have. His body was on his bed, right? And I suppose the servants found the body, they took him, buried it somewhere in Machanayim. Okay, but David now had his head. So what did David do with his head? That's Rosh Ishbosh, is Lokhu, they took, Yikbaru, and they buried it, the kever, in the gravesite of Avner, Bechevron, in Hebron. So Avner had been buried a few days before and a few weeks before, and I don't know, sometime before, and it doesn't mean in the same grave coffin, in the same grave site next to, there's the head of Ishbosheth. Did he eventually put the two parts together? I don't think it's recorded in Tanach what they did, whether the two parts of his body were ever joined together. I don't know what the halachic rules are about that. Usually when you bury someone, we don't take them out of the ground afterwards, unless they were buried on condition to move them later on. Like sometimes you bury a person in Chutz La'aretz, on condition that when it becomes possible, you move them to Eretz Yisrael. But usually we don't take a person out. Now, can you take a person's body out in order to join the two parts of his body together?
Who said you take it out? Just adding.
No, if they're no. Ishbosh's body was buried in Machanayim, presumably.
Right.
David buried his head in Hebron. At some point in the future, we'll be able to put the two parts together, right? When the country becomes united. So at that point, do we have a heter to take the head out and move it, or take the body and move it?
Maybe they had in mind.
Maybe they had in mind. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't. It's not recorded anyway what happened. All right. Okay. So next chapter is a bit happier chapter. We're gonna have the people